it's business as usual. We have been busier, of course, and lots of new things have been happening, which we've had to be aware of. And of course, we couldn't meet, but that hasn't deterred us at all. We have used our usual networks. I myself have carried on having telephone conversations with colleagues rather than actual meetings. So business as usual, because we care. We believe very much in crime cannot flourish in a community that cares. So the whole community spirit, especially on a Thursday evening at 8 o'clock with everybody banging their saucepans in my local village, it has just brought us closer together. We have got a number of new coordinators who've stepped forward and been processed during this lockdown period. We haven't met any of them, and several of us, especially yours truly, are very face-to-face people. So we look forward to actually welcoming all the new schemes that have actually been set up during the lockdown. We rely very much, which is really why we have been able to carry on as usual on our network system, and the fact that we cascade information and we do it free of charge through email. We have used our county network system, which covers the whole of the Isle of Wight and Hampshire as a county, including Portsmouth and Southampton. And we have kept them and asked lead coordinators to cascade down to their members so that they give you a response every time for your survey. And I hope that has happened because we've encouraged them to do that. The Older Drivers Forum consists of road safety experts and people like myself, and we are all so keen to enable and to ensure that older drivers carry on driving as long as possible, but as safely as possible, because more recent statistics show that more and more older drivers are being involved in traffic incidents. So recently, one of the members, in fact, only last week, the beginning of last week, sent me out an absolutely brilliant pack of advice for looking after your car because it's been just sitting there and not being used. And various other aspects of ensuring that you think before you actually get back into your car. As I say, we want to keep people driving as long as possible for their own independence and convenience, but it must be safe. And not only are we linked with experts from the police, but also county council department, highways and traffic safety, actually do and provide an assessment service, which is very empathetic. They take you in a route that you are comfortable with, your familiar route to your local supermarket, etc. And at the end of that, they will talk you through perhaps things they've noticed that you are more hesitant about. So that kind of thing we will be emphasizing is available, but the actual bulletins go through things like move your car every now and again to make sure that the tires are not being depressed continually in one spot to weaken them, checking tire pressures. It's about thinking about your own mobility. I'm one of those older drivers in my 79th year. And yes, I do know the importance of exercise. So I roll my head and I turn my head sideways because that mobility of the neck is a key scenario and cause often for older drivers just not seeing or being aware of things that affect and might cause even a minor accident. So the bulletins were sent out right across the county in the Isle of Wight through our network system. And I am absolutely delighted to participate in that group. It is so important. Was highlighted to me in a recent conversation with our Chief Constable, because we weren't allowed during lockdown to actually have our formal meeting. And we discussed, she and I, the sensibility and the empathy that we could bring to those Chinese community, if we welcomed them into Neighbourhood Watch. And she was so keen to help to make that happen. The whole process has started, and I have enlisted not only the help of 3 particular chief officers, but also obviously the chief executive, the chief officers of the Hampshire team too, so that once we can meet up, we have already a substantial list of 10 contacts, and we will be connecting with them initially email and setting up, we hope, face-to-face opportunities for us to welcome and share the crime prevention advice, the contacts, the what to do, how to report a crime type of advice that we give to everybody. And we want to make that available we have a good example in the Gurkha communities in the Aldershot area, have worked very closely with not only the police but Neighbourhood Watch to very effective results. And that's what I would like to see happen in Southampton. About a year ago, we had the opportunity, the chairman and myself, of meeting with the head chief inspector of burglary type of crime in the Hampshire Constabulary, and very quickly we established a huge mutual awareness that in fact burglary is still the crime which causes people to set up schemes. More than any other reason, it is burglary. I know, and we're all very aware, and we're working on cyber scams, etc., but it's still the invasion of your home by an outsider. And he has now retired, but already, even during lockdown, the chairman and myself have made a very strong association with his successor. So much so that last week, together, the 3 of us agreed what was to go out on an alert to make people aware that because of the fine weather, doors, windows open, because we've all been at home, crime patterns have actually changed, but the burglars are still there. And what we have to do at the moment is really reinforce our crime prevention messages of shutting doors, locking windows, making sure that everything is secure in your home before you go and have that 6 feet away cup of tea with your next door neighbour in the garden. So it's really being alert and taking personal responsibility to keep those statistics down. We, as I explained before, are very fortunate because over the years we have established a very strong network. In fact, other organisations come to us to use our networking facilities. It is based on us breaking ourselves down firstly into police districts, and then under that with area leads. For example, in the Winchester area, we've got 3 sections of our Winchester police team: the city, Winchester Rural to the north and the east and west, and then the Meon Valley is Winchester Greater. So we've got several lead coordinators, and we disseminate everything from the top, either from our chairman or our county secretary. It goes to every lead coordinator, and then they have the responsibility and the task to send it to each of the local coordinators. I myself am a village coordinator, and then I disseminate it to all the emails that I have in my village. So our system is very robust, and we, I suppose, take it for granted, but I know, because I've had so many thank yous during this particular lockdown, for 1 or 2 things that I've sent out to keep spirits up. I think that's, I've seen my role not only as giving information, but to try and keep people relaxed and comfortable, saying thank you, which people are doing so much more, and it is a pleasure. And just to enjoy each other's company and be there for each other. I suppose because of my own character, really, I'm very passionate about the virtues of Neighbourhood Watch, because I have a 0 tolerance of crime. But from there, I don't often feel it's my role to be intrusive, and I'm not a nosy person, even though I don't miss a trick. But the neighbourliness aspect has really come to the front, and it's been an absolute delight. In my village, for example, my deputy coordinator has established an app where everybody is invited to ask if there is any little thing that we can do, any of us, to help. And that has been a great comfort. And then personally, I have been in touch with 1 or 2 particularly vulnerable villagers and found the table was turned because they looked after me and all of us. Even the tabloid press has pointed out lots of warnings about scams. And we had already, as Neighbourhood Watch, organised a very small but very informed group of neighbourhood watchers who are working with the constabulary and very much in the future with yourselves. And they are developing a system of cyber champions, which is very exciting. And we are very aware that we're vulnerable. And the lonelier we are as individuals switching on our machines and our laptops, it's very tempting just to open up and to be drawn in to horrifying scams. So yes, that is something that we are really purposeful about. The other exciting piece of news is that just prior to the lockdown, we had mounted a new initiative in Hampshire to provide everybody with information about local crimes. This was something that some police officers had historically been doing, but it had to go with the police cutbacks, and we were totally understandable that that had to happen. And that's why people like myself stepped forward to become a volunteer. And apparently, I hadn't realised it, I have now been a volunteer for Please Volunteer for 10 years. So we mounted an initiative for us to be able to do this. And I needed to get permission from the Chief Officer Group because it involves training in the recording management system that the police use in order for us to extract the kind of information that we need to tell everybody. We had, just prior to lockdown, 4 people who were then trained and prepared to do this, and it was very exciting. It just bears evidence of the huge contribution that people are willing to make, not just for their own safety, but to help keep everybody safe. It's very easy to set up a scheme. And we are now, over the last 18 months, under the leadership of our chairman, we now have a hugely comprehensive list of how to do it and what to do documentation. We don't like rules, but there are some rules that are sensible in order to give privacy and accuracy. And we are very careful to ensure and to advise people that they are speaking in a very privileged way on behalf of yourselves, the police, and us as other residents. So the actual quality of information is very important. But how to set up a scheme, most of the new people, especially during this lockdown period, have come because they have either gone on to the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Neighbourhood Watch website, or else they've gone on to the National Our Watch website.